how we select that. Do you want me to get Lynn?
Yeah.
Then will you help me select me?
Student trustee.
And Misty, we are live on
Missy
YouTube, so just to let you know.
Shaley.
My way.
Was St. John Simmons?
Yeah.
Can't see.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, then Dr. Hightower, we're
Yeah,
good.
ready to go? Yeah. Welcome to the Illinois University Board of Trustees full board meeting. I will now call this meeting to order. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Clinton? Here. Curtis?
Present.
Genovese?
Here.
Gilbert?
Here.
Hightower? Sharma?
Present.
Simmons?
Here.
Tedrick?
Here.
Walter?
Present.
A quorum is established.
A quorum is established. Vice Chair Dr. Hightower is unable to join us today for this meeting. Trustee Simmons, Dr. Hightower made me promise that I would not appoint you temporary vice chair.
He is
Good
a
friend
wise
Dr.
man.
Hightower made me promise that.
Thank you.
Understand?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay. Before we begin, again, we're here by Zoom pursuant to a executive order from the governor. Have our general counsel, Mr. Crater, explain to the public why we're able to do this hearing by Zoom.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, pursuant to amendments to the Open Meetings Act, when there is an executive order or a public health disaster proclamation, which was ordered most recently on August 20th by the governor, it's within the purview of the public body to hold a meeting virtually as we are now and are complying with the requirements of that legislation.
Okay, thank you. The first item is the Ohio Valley Conference certification form for the SIU Edwardsville, which is presented to the board annually and signed by the chair. A copy of this form has been sent to the board members ahead of this meeting. Are there any questions about this item?
Oh.
Okay, hearing none, I will sign the form and it will be sent to the Ohio Valley Conference. The next item is the FY 2022 operating budget discussion. President Mahoney, will you introduce this item?
Yeah, Chair Gilbert, we'll have presentations from both campuses in the School of Medicine, and we'll start today with the Edwardsville campus. I'll turn it over to Chancellor Pember to present the budget proposal from Edwardsville.
Thank you, President Mahoney. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to review our SIUE 21-22 budget picture today. I would like to go over three documents you should have received from Misty on Tuesday. The first is called Fiscal Year 2022 Operating Budget Summary, covering line items and major fund groups. The second document is a change document comparing 2021 versus 2022, entitled Preliminary Fiscal Year 2022 General Operating Budget. And the third document is Fiscal Year 2021 and Fiscal Year 2022 Revenue and Expenditures by Fund Group, document projecting the 2022 budget with a look back at 2021 projections and actuals. So I hope that you have those three documents. I'll start with document number one, line items and major fund groups. Several elements under revenue are important. So if you look in the revenue section, general revenue from the state stayed flat at 58 million, better than many surrounding states' support for higher education. Tuition revenue is projected at 102 million. I'll describe that in more detail in a moment. These two elements constitute our general operating or GO budget of $160 million. Student fees generate about $7.6 million toward revenue bond projects and go to support our bonds, covering areas such as non-state buildings, including the fitness center and the Student Success Center. In that same column, you'll see revenues of over $30 million for sales and services, which include items such as student room and board and parking. Student fees of $23 million go for self-supporting activities such as textbook services, IT, health services, and athletics. Finally, our grants and contracts are projected at around $45 million for this coming fiscal year. In the same document, under expenditures, there are also several elements which are important. When you compare the revenue total, for example, $58 million in general revenue appropriation, column 1, to the expenditure total, also $58 million, that basically is saying that we're going to spend all of the general revenue in various areas such as personal services, salaries, insurance, etc. The same with grants and contracts. We will spend what we receive. That is how grants work. We request funding for special tasks, specific tasks, and spend the grant dollars in that way. You will notice that there are two fairly large parenthetical or negative revenue numbers, the revenue bond operations and self-supporting activities. That means that we're anticipating spending more in those two areas in 21-22 than we receive. Please note that our reserves in both of those areas, $17 million for revenue bond and $49 million for self-supporting activities, indicate that we're in good shape from a cash standpoint in both areas. But the $1.8 million for the revenue bond is largely attributable to housing occupancy numbers. Last year with COVID, our on-campus housing occupancy was at around 60%, which has produced an ongoing hole in the ongoing occupancy picture as the fall 2020 class matriculates through their time in their undergraduate education. This year, we are in much better shape at 86% occupancy, but we need occupancy levels in the 90s to meet the bond payment. We are looking at several options to create a balanced budget, including refinancing, housing scholarships to increase occupancy, and ways of marketing the advantages of living on campus. For example, higher retention and graduation rates for those students. I have formed an ad hoc committee to study this further. One of the biggest challenges is that the bond is built on a balloon mortgage concept, and so we need to increase revenues about $500,000 per year to break even. A housing fee increase would help us as we look to fall 2022, as the original bond model was built on an assumption of increasing revenues. The other large shortfall is the negative $2.8 million relating to self-supporting activities. This is largely attributable to a few one-time large expenses hitting in 21-22, including new dental equipment for the recently opened clinic in Alton, purchasing of large numbers of textbooks in the first year of a 3-year cycle where upfront costs are high and year 2 and 3 year costs are much lower, and the purchase of digital textbook rental access codes, which are being used more and more, particularly during COVID. The second document, labeled SIU 3, is the comparison sheet of fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22, and is titled Preliminary Fiscal Year 2022 General Operating Budget. As I mentioned previously, state appropriation is flat over the 2-year period. As you will hear in my university report, we have good news in that we are up about 150 students overall for fall 2021. So we are projecting additional revenue around $940,000 in tuition. If you look under new commitments, we are increasing scholarship support for students so they have greater access to higher education. For example, the Cougar Scholarship Program for households under 64K. So the scholarship cost is slightly higher at $786,000. The academic programs line indicates an increase of $722,000, which means that the AP partnership is working. increasing our NBA enrollment from 93 in 2018 to 444 in fall 2021. Therefore, based on our contract, we will pay AP more for generating more students. The largest part of the budget increase for fiscal year 22 relates to increased salaries. The first line is for the represented employees and is based on current negotiated agreements. The second line is for non-reps. Finally, the negative 2.8 million shortfall relates to 2021. During the COVID year, we were down slightly in enrollment and had additional costs associated with COVID. We chose not to release employees during this period to balance the budget. We did that for 3 reasons. First, within the environment of retaining excellent employees and sustaining their jobs and paychecks at a very difficult time, it seemed like the right thing to do and seemed to be an implied part of receiving HERF funds. Second, we have strong cash reserves specifically put aside to deal with a rainy day, and 2020, 2021 certainly seemed like rainy weather. Third, we were hoping for some federal and state COVID relief. So as we look at 2021-22 and balancing the budget, we are doing 3 things labeled under adjustments. Using some of our HERF dollars as part of the overall revenue picture, reducing spending by $1 million by increasing the unit contingencies to 6.6%, up from 6% this past year, and anticipating using around $750K of reserves. However, this could change based on the COVID situation. For example, if we have less testing in spring 2022. We will monitor and make adjustments as we go throughout 2021-22. And I would share that an ad hoc budget committee has been formed to monitor the budget situation, particularly as we transition to a new chancellor. The third document, titled Revenue and Expenditures by Fund Group, i.e. SIUE2, shows our 2022 projections and the 2021 projections and actuals. Some items are fairly easy to project once announced, for example, state appropriations, as you will see on that page. Grants and contracts were over-realized and therefore overspent. This is largely attributable to HERF grant dollars. Self-supporting activities margins were also over-realized and have healthy cash balances. We are projecting that the income fund will be about flat in 21-22. Last year, we made some one-time investments to eliminate long-term rental costs, including audio-video system upgrades for the Vidalabine Center First Community Arena for events such as commencements and convocation. We also invested in the East St. Louis Center based on recommendations from the Anti-Racism Task Force using indirect cost recovery dollars. Having said that, we hope that the board will consider tuition and general fee adjustments to support ongoing improvements in facilities, academic programs, salaries, and scholarship support in 2022-23 next year and beyond. If revenue streams are fixed and expenses continue to increase, the budget will be strained. We are projecting finishing the 2022 year with reserves of nearly $20 million, which is important in this uncertain era of COVID and increasing costs. Thank you. And thanks to our team of excellent budget officers and managers at SIUE.
Anybody have any questions of Chancellor Pembroke? Okay, very good, Chancellor Pembroke. Very good report.
Yeah.
President Mahoney.
I'll turn it over next to Chancellor Lane to present the Carbondale budget.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and President Mahoney. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to present the fiscal year 2022 budget. And before we get into it, I just want to thank our budget team, Julie McReynolds. She's going to open up and give a summary, really highlighting the documents that you have in front of you on table A and some of the other documents. But all of our faculty, our staff, I appreciate them for being efficient and really working with us through these times where we're trying to get better and better. So Julie, with that, would you begin our presentation?
Sure.
Thank you for the opportunity to present the fiscal year 22 budget for the Carbondale campus today. I will be focusing on the campus budget, and John Horvat will present the budget for the School of Medicine. When preparing the budget this year, we knew we needed to include a salary increase for our faculty and staff. The last increase our employees received was 1% more than 3 years ago. We recognize that our faculty and staff are working harder than ever in the middle of a pandemic, and that our salaries are lagging as compared to other institutions of the same size. I will be going over the documents in the order that you received them in your packet. The first document you have is Table A of the operating budget. Our total operating budget is approximately $353 million, an increase of $11 million over last year. This is mostly due to the Higher Education Emergency Relief Funds, also known as HERF funds, located in the Grants and Contracts Fund Group. Almost half of the total budget is funded by two sources, state appropriations and tuition revenues. We are grateful once again for the continued support of higher education from the governor and legislatures who budgeted higher education at the same level in FY22 as they did in FY21. Stability in the state appropriation is critical for our financial planning. For the first time in many years, we have budgeted flat tuition revenues. As you know, our campus shared some positive news earlier this month regarding enrollment. We have increased our freshman class for the second year in a row, an increase of 4.5% over last year. The number of new transfers also increased this year, a 3.5% increase over last year. Graduate student enrollment is up slightly as well, and overall enrollment was essentially flat as compared to last year. The last time enrollment was relatively flat was between the fall of 2013 and the fall of 2014. I also want to spend some time talking about the budget for revenue bond operations. The largest operation in this fund group is student housing with an annual expense budget of $23 million, or about half the entire budget for that fund group. All areas in this fund group have seen reduced revenue opportunities caused by pandemic restrictions. Lower enrollment has also reduced fee revenues for all the areas in the past few years and contributed to lower cash reserves. Some of these areas will receive partial relief from HERF funds. The addition of the HERF funds is not budgeted, and they should reduce the negative planned operating result. We will continue to closely monitor the revenue and expenses in all the revenue bond debt funded areas to ensure that total cash reserves are not depleted. I would also like to talk about the self-supporting fund group. Intercollegiate athletics is the primary reason for this fund group, why this fund group is negative. The pandemic caused a reduction in revenue by almost $4.3 million for athletics. Athletics has developed a phased approach to address their financial challenges. This includes a three-phased approach at reducing expenses by $3 million each year for 3 years. The actual reduction in expenses from FY20 to FY21 was $4.5 million. We are aware of the challenges associated with the athletics programs and will continue to work towards a permanent solution. The second document you have is a comparison of FY21 budget and actuals and the FY22 budget. The income fund revenue was approximately $9 million over the budget. $5 million of this was due to the 7-year repayment plan. The additional funds were due to better than expected income fund revenues. One thing to note is that we are on track for our income fund repayment. Using the 7-year repayment plan, we should have ended FY21 at negative $16,373.7 million, and we ended the year at negative $16,325.9 million, a difference of $47,000. Last year, we stated that we would be reviewing our tuition discounting practices. The campus granted $29 million in discretionary waivers during FY21, a drop of $3 million from FY20. We will continue to review these practices and make additional reductions. Actual revenue increased due to HERF for the Grants and Contracts Fund Group. COVID-19 also had a large impact on reduced revenue for sales and events in the Revenue Bond Operations Fund Group. We will be using some HERF funds to cover a portion of the lost revenue, and these calculations are currently being reviewed. The last document you have demonstrates the expected changes in general operating income and expenses. You can see that we're requesting a 2% salary increase for all employees, with the increases for represented employees being bargained consistent with the terms of each of their collective bargaining agreements. We anticipate that we will not need any type of budget reduction and will be able to cover the salary increases with increased revenue or a reduction of expenses. Preliminary assessments of tuition revenue show that we will exceed our income fund budget this year. If a budget reduction is needed, we are prepared to make the adjustment and feel that our employees should be our top priority at this time. Thank you.
Any questions regarding the Carbondale budget?
Yeah, and then I'll move on now to the School of Medicine. Dean Cruz, I'll let you start.
Sure. Our report will be given by Associate Provost for Finance Administration, John Horvat. So John, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dr. Cruz. Since joining SIU 27 months ago, this is actually my third budget presentation to this board. This time last year, as the global pandemic was well underway, you saw a very different picture for the School of Medicine when I presented a deficit budget of $26.6 million. This year, you'll see that the School of Medicine has prepared a budget with a positive margin of just under $1 million. I'll now walk you through our revenue and expenditures by fund group, which is labeled School of Medicine 2, and how we got to a positive margin on revenues of $264 million. As you are aware, the state appropriations show no increase or decrease from prior years. These funds provide salary support for central administration, the basic and clinical sciences, including medical student teaching, physician assistant teaching programs, and to a lesser extent, operation of the Simmons Cancer Institute through an add-on appropriation. Our income fund or tuition and fees shows an increased revenue of $1.5 million. That increase includes additional revenues from the new Doctorate of Medical Science degree program, year 2 of the Lincoln Scholars Program, which added 8 additional students to the medical school class, a small increase in tuition student fees, and a 2% tuition increase previously approved by this board. Expenditure increases include new faculty and other expenditures for the Doctorate of Medical Science program, and a shift from other funds. While we do anticipate a $3 million deficit in this fund for fiscal year 22 for ongoing operations, this will be a short-term deficit as other revenue sources, primarily from our hospital partners, are secured to close the gap in fiscal year 23. The School of Medicine does have sufficient reserves in this fund to offset any loss in fiscal year 22. Under grants and contracts, the School of Medicine has budgeted an increase from the prior year budget in grant revenues. Since revenue received from external sources matches the expenditures over the life of the grant, expenditures are equal to revenues in this category. The year-over-year budget increase is attributed to increased research productivity in certain departments and increased support from the federal government for COVID response, especially for the FQHC, or our Federally Qualified Health Plan or Health Center, which received a 2-year funding grant, which includes $500,000 to expand or renovate clinical space. Indirect cost recovery. Revenue in this fund includes money received from SIU Healthcare in support of the academic mission of the school. These are clinical dollars deposited as academic development funds, as described in the master agreement between the university and SIU Healthcare. As clinical revenues were declining at the start of the pandemic, this support with the Chancellor's concurrence was reduced as SIU Healthcare's cash preservation initiatives. Those funds were restored in January 21 as clinical volumes approached pre-pandemic levels. Actual expenditures in 21 included the transfer of $5.5 million in plant reserve fund to pay for costs associated with future capital building projects. Under revenue bond operations, this fund includes SIU Healthcare's clinical operations supported by the School of Medicine and includes salaries, support staff, space rental, malpractice insurance, operating expenditures of our outpatient clinics, and back office support services. Revenue in this category matches expenditures except for a small timing difference. These are all supported by clinical revenue. Lower expenditures in fiscal year 21 include a decrease of malpractice expense of approximately $5 million due to a reduction in claim experience resulting in a rebate from the self-insurance fund. Staff furloughs, hiring freezes, and other reduced operating expenditures during the pandemic contributed to the reduction. Those reductions are not budgeted in fiscal year 21. Further in fiscal year, not budgeted in fiscal year 22. Further, we anticipate expansion of certain clinical services in Decatur, Springfield, and the Metro East region in fiscal year 22. Under self-supporting activities, as I mentioned earlier, the School of Medicine presented a $26.6 million deficit budget last year, which was primarily in the self-supporting activities fund. There are three primary sources of revenue in this category, so I'll touch on each of them. The School of Medicine receives academic support and medical director payments from our hospital partners in Springfield, Carbondale, Decatur, Quincy, Alton, and others to support the teaching programs at those locations. As the impact of the healthcare system at the start of the global pandemic was thought to be dire, we budgeted a worst-case scenario in hospital support, which thankfully was not as severe as first indicated. Academic support from our hospital partners was gradually restored as the pandemic progressed. Further, we have funded commitments in fiscal year 22, which exceed fiscal year 21 levels by $5.1 million. We anticipate near full restoration in fiscal year 23 of the final $2.5 million needed for academic programs at pre-pandemic levels. The second category in self-supporting is our federally qualified health centers, which is revenue and expenditures for the Centers for Family Medicine, the university-owned FQHC, which increased nearly $5 million in fiscal year 22. That includes $2.9 million in revenue expenses for general internal medicine, primary care physicians in Springfield who joined the FQHC earlier this year, shifting that activity from SIU Healthcare. Further expansions of the FQHC include new sites and expansion of the 340B drug program, which explains the remaining $2 million increase in fiscal year 22. Third, other than revenue from our hospital partners in the FQHC, we receive funding from other sources, including a contract with the Illinois Department of Corrections. Expenditures for the correctional medicine contract were less than budgeted in fiscal year 21, explaining much of the surplus. But we anticipate full expenditures of those funds in fiscal year 22 as that program expands operations. In conclusion, the School of Medicine implemented a number of cost-saving measures as part of our pandemic response, including, along with pre-pandemic clinical activities and hospital support, helped us prevent a significant loss in fiscal year 21 and resulted in a positive margin. With this board's approval, the School of Medicine implemented significant reductions in compensation, implemented a furlough program for both faculty and staff, a hiring freeze, reduction in capital expenditures, travel, and other discretionary spending. We don't expect for those austerity measures to continue in fiscal year 22. We are, however, challenged by the inability to fill support staff positions because of ongoing workforce shortages. Workforce shortages will have an impact on our ability to provide clinical care and support our teaching mission unless we develop creative ways to recruit and retain support staff. Salary adjustments have been built into this budget, and the School of Medicine adjustment plan is part of this board's agenda later in this meeting. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Okay, President Mahoney, your background is in numbers, and when I reviewed these last week, it seems to me that the Edwardsville, Carbondale, and the School of Medicine have weathered this COVID storm very well. And just kind of want to get your take on, I think, of course, we're very pleased with the support we get out of Springfield. Our legislators have done a wonderful job in advocating for us. But these are tough times with COVID, but seems to me that the campuses are doing an excellent job in putting together their budget.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think if you look at where we thought we might be at this point in the pandemic, we would have expected to be much worse off financially. I think we've done quite well. And part of what we presented this year, a little different to the board, is the actuals from last year. And I think when you look at those, what you see generally is we outperformed what we put in the budget. And I hope to continue to do that, but we did that last year in a number of different ways, in some significant ways. And again, as Carbondale mentioned a few times, it's important to point out when you look at their numbers that they have not put in a lot of their HERF dollars yet into what they have in their budget. Once they do that again, they will also outperform what we presented last year as the budget. So they've done quite well and managed the budget, I think, extremely well given the circumstances we had last year.
I agree. Any questions from the board? Okay, next we will close the meeting and go into executive session. I move to close the meeting to the public for the purpose of considering pending, probable, or imminent court proceedings against or on behalf of the board, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, and review of executive session minutes. The relevant section of the Open Meetings Act statute that allows for the closed section are 5 ILCS 120/2 (C) 1 and 21. Do I have a second to that motion?
So moved.
Mr. Tedrick seconded. Ms. Whittington, will you please call the roll?
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Genovese,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Pedrick,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes, and we are now going to move to the president's office to go into executive session. So we'll stand in recess until we come back out after executive session.
Yes, I saw. You want to go ahead?
The full board is back in open session and will now reconvene. I'm going to recess and reconvene at the conclusion of the board's committee meetings. The first committee meeting is that of the executive committee. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes held October 3rd, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? And again, this is either myself, trustee Tedrick, or Simmons.
So moved.
Been moved by trustee Simmons and seconded by trustee Tedrick. Please call the roll, Ms. Whittington.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Cedric. And Simmons. I saw it.
Yes.
Okay, the minutes have been approved. The last item is the schedule of meetings of the Board of Trustees for 2022, Board Agenda Item J. Is there any discussion? I guess I'd like trustee Curtis, does this schedule for September okay with you? Because I know you have other board meetings.
Yes, it's fine.
It is, okay. Do I hear a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
I'll second. Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Kendrick. I see him here. He doesn't have a sticker on. Simmons.
Yes.
Okay, that motion has been approved. There's no further business before the executive committee, and so this meeting is adjourned. In Dr. Hightower's absence, I'm going to ask Dr. Sharma to serve as chair pro tem for today's Academic Matters Committee meeting. Trustee Sharma, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you, Chair Gilbert. The meeting of the Academic Matters Committee is now in session. And the first item is on the announcements. Dr. Gupchup, are there any announcements?
Trustee Sharma, we do have a few announcements, but the Secretary of the Board asked if we could present the Inventor of the Year award first, since the Inventor of the Year is present. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, that is okay with me. That is item number 5 on our agenda. So go ahead and please introduce Dr. Khalid Maxine.
Thank you, Trustee Sharma. I would like to request Mr. Rob Patino, the SIU System Director of Technology Management and Industry Relations, to please present the award to Dr. Maxim. Mr. Patino, are you on?
And thank you, VP Gupchuk. Yes, I'd like to recognize Khalid Maxim, who is faculty at the School of Agricultural Sciences, who will be our first recipient of the Inventor of the Year Award in 2021. Dr. Maxim, over the past 5 years, has made outstanding inventorship contributions to the SIU system, including 10 invention disclosures. 8 provisional patent applications have been filed on his behalf. 2 U.S. patents have issued, including 1 in China, and a license agreement was executed with a multi-billion-dollar chemical company for the SIU system on behalf of the Board of Trustees. So I'd just like to congratulate Khalid, and the President will make that award available to you.
Congratulations. Yes. And here's the certificate for Inventor of the Year. Congratulations on being our inaugural Inventor of the Year. So, yes. Around here, I'll get so they'll hold for your shop. You got here. You're the only 1, 2, 3. Okay, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Dr. Maxim, for outstanding accomplishments. We are really proud of you, and the system is really proud of you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
So I'd like to congratulate Dr. Maxim as well. Great job. We're really proud of you as well, as Trustee Sharma said. Trustee Sharma, I would like to request Mr. Patino, since he's on, to quickly discuss the SIU System Association for University Technology Managers, now called AUTM, Technology Transfer Ranking, since this is connected to inventorship.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Patino.
Let me see if I can share my screen. And so I just want to state that interim Vice Chancellor of Research, Gary Kensel, brought this to my attention. We report to the Association of University Technology Managers our invention disclosures, the licensing income that we bring in every year. And you'll see on this spreadsheet that Southern Illinois University came in about 144th as it relates to total research expenditures of close to $60 million. However, if you modify our ranking by the actual licensing that is brought in, switch that here, the gross license income is about $1.3 million for last year. And this put SIU right at the 109th place amongst all universities in the United States. However, Dr. Kensel dug a little bit further, and he took the gross income and divided that by the total research expenditures to see how efficient that SIU has been. And if you look at that, we actually rank 46 in the nation as far as the percentage of licensing income per research dollars that we contribute. So SIU does very, very well. In fact, I will say that the licensing income that we brought in was just behind the University of Iowa. And so I only mention that because they have a very large hospital system there. And SIU does compare quite favorably amongst its peers. I do expect this to increase over the next couple of years as the licensing revenue that we're bringing in it seems to be doing quite well. So that's all that I have to report. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Outstanding, really good. Good to see this. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Patino, for the very useful information. And that's, we are really proud of your work and what SIU is doing on these patents and other things. Good to see all these things. So Dr. Gupchuk, you can continue with the agenda now with the announcements first.
Thank you, Trustee Sharma, and I would like to congratulate all the research officers and Mr. Patino as well. So in terms of announcements, like I've done in the past, I would like to commend our faculty, staff, and students on a successful beginning to the fall 2021 semester during these difficult times. In the past, I've given updates about endeavors that we've been able to initiate system-wide. With a very busy academic matters committee meeting today, I would like to yield my time to some who have actually been working hard to make system-wide endeavors a reality. Today, I would like to introduce Dr. Lakeisha Butler and Dean John Politz. They are the co-facilitators of the SIU System Strategic Plan. Along with everyone who's been involved in the strategic plan, they've been doing a wonderful job. They will give you a short update on the progress of the SIU System Strategic Plan development. Dr. Butler is a clinical professor of pharmacy and director of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the School of Pharmacy. And Dean Politz is Dean of the Morris Library at SIUC. Drs. Butler and Dean Politz, please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Gupchuk. My name is John Politz. I'm Dean of Library Affairs at SIUC. And good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to give a progress report from the SIU System Strategic Planning Committee. And I'll start out with a little background, then Dr. Butler will bring it home. As you know, in the spring of 2020, the SIU Strategic Planning Committee was formed with around 29 people with the system mission and with the charge to construct a system mission and vision and to come up with 6 goal themes for the system, and then work towards a final strategic plan. Well, we came up with the 6 goals: academic innovation and student success, anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion, community impact, research, creativity, creative activity and partnerships, faculty and staff issues, and infrastructure. Over the spring and summer of 2021, the subcommittees worked on each of these goals to create objectives and metrics. And I'll let Dr. Butler talk about those activities, or ask her to.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Dean Politz, for that. And thank you for having us to provide this update to you today. I did just want to provide you with additional details. The subcommittees did submit their goal plans. And so those particular goal plans did have about 3 to 5 objectives that were in line with each goal theme. In addition to the objectives, there are strategies to achieve each objective, as well as metrics to measure the progress and success, and followed by responsibilities for achieving the success and resources. So those 6 goal theme plans were submitted, and we've been able to take a look at those. With that, we decided that a small core group of the original SIU Strategic Plan Committee, a subcommittee, would be created to evaluate each of these 6 expanded goal plans that were submitted. And we have been meeting weekly every Friday to discuss and provide further editing of the submitted plans. We are identifying and consolidating any overlaps between the goal theme objectives and strategies. And we're also ensuring alignment with a system-wide plan, and that's really key. We want to make sure that this is a system plan versus that we are getting into the weeds of what's going on at each campus. So I'm happy to report that we are certainly partially complete in going through each of those 6 expanded goal plans. We are also happy that we've been able to solicit various stakeholder input. And so all of these committees have been representative of the different campuses. And we are graciously moving forward with productivity. Our timeline is to continue to go through the initial drafts, and we will be editing and continuing to clean up and hone in on the alignment with a system-wide plan. And that concludes our updates as it relates to the strategic plan.
Thank you, Drs. Butler and Kinsel. Are there, Trustee Sharma, would anyone have any questions for our co-facilitators?
Not from me. Any board member has any questions, please?
I have a comment, and that's just kudos to all the hard work this group has put in. It's very impressive.
Well, thank you, Trustee Tedrick. Since I said I will yield my time, those are the announcements that I have, Trustee Sharma.
Thank you.
Could I interrupt for just one moment? I loaded into the chat. I forgot to mention this. Loaded into the chat the link to the strategic plan and for more information and the names of the people on this subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the next item for our committee is the approval of the minutes of July 15, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting held July 15, 2021? So moved. Second. What are the
Trustees Genovese or Walters?
Trustee Genevieve, Walters.
Matt, I see Maddie has her speaker off now. Okay.
I'm back. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
So, Madam Secretary, please call the roll call vote.
Genovese,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
and Walters.
Yes.
So motion carries. The next item is Program Quality Assurance FY 2021 report. Vice President Gupchuk, will you speak to this item?
Certainly, Trustee Sharma. So the Illinois Board of Higher Education requires all approved units of instruction, public service and research offered by the public universities to be evaluated on a periodic basis. In addition to external accreditation reviews, all SIU system non-accredited programs go through what we call a program reviews every 8 years. Program review is an internal process to ensure that we provide high-quality programs and identify any corrective actions necessary. The Program Quality Assurance Report in the Board of Trustees packet includes the following for your review: list of programs that are accredited by outside agencies along with their status, the results of non-accredited program reviews, and the identification of programs flagged for various issues, and the schedule of reviews for all programs, whether or not they are accredited through academic year 2028.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
No. Any questions from the board members or anyone else? Thank you, Vice President Gupchuk. The next item is the grant awards and contracts for FY 2021. Vice President Gupchuk, will you introduce this item, please?
Yes, Trustee Sharma, I will. So you've already seen the Inventor of the Year and the fantastic work that our campuses are doing. Our chief research officers on each campus will present executive summaries of research grants and contracts received in fiscal year 21. Also, they will mention some notable research and creative activities on each campus, as well as inter-campus initiatives. Each research officer will then present a short video to highlight the research or creative activities on their campus. We will go in alphabetical order today, and I would like to request Dr. Gary Kinsel of SIUC to present first, followed by Dr. Don Torrey of the School of Medicine, and then Dr. Jerry Weinberg of SIUE. Dr. Kinsel, please go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I want to start off by thanking Dr. Gupchuk for arranging for the research directors of the 3 SIU system campuses to have this opportunity to present these updates. We have a lot to be proud of in our research enterprise, and I know that for myself and the other research directors, we really do appreciate the opportunity to present this information to the Board of Trustees. On the Carbondale campus, I am pleased to report that we had a successful fiscal year 21, despite the complications that were introduced by the pandemic. Just prior to FY 21, we rolled out a research re-engagement plan that allowed most of our researchers to restart their research with appropriate restrictions very quickly after the declaration of the pandemic. As a result, SIU Carbondale, including the Carbondale School of Medicine faculty, received $44.7 million in awards in FY 21. To be clear, this does not include the $20.1 million of higher education emergency relief funds that were also received in fiscal year 21. This amount of $44.7 million represents an increase over fiscal year 20 and an increase of over $7 million in external awards over the last 5 years since the state budget impasse. As a result, SIU Carbondale remains the top-ranked Carnegie R2 doctoral research university in the state of Illinois. Even more impressive is the fact that when one looks at the funding per faculty member, this number, which is now over $93,000 per tenure track faculty on average, is at the highest level it has been in at least the last 10 years. This outcome speaks very highly to the quality and productivity of the research engaged faculty on the SIU Carbondale campus. Within the portfolio of external awards, there are a large number of highlights, some of which are included in the summaries provided to the Board of Trustees members. There really are too many to mention all, but one in particular is the award received by Dr. Keith Gagnon and Dr. Kaushik Sinha to support the survey of the genomes of the SARS-CoV-2 viruses that were collected in the Chicago area. This work led to the early identification of a particular mutant of the virus that was rapidly spreading throughout the country and brought both national and international attention to the research on campus. At this point, rather than continue with the listing of accomplishments, I have a short video to show about one of the recent research successes at SIU Carbondale that led to a disclosure and ultimately to a patent and technology transfer. This video describes the work by Dr. Haibo Wang and Dr. Spiros Tragutis in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering and their graduate student, Stefan Leitner. To set the stage, perhaps some of you remember the days when the only version of video conferencing was what you saw in the comics. I'm thinking of Dick Tracy here. I remember that when I asked some of the engineers in my life when we would have this type of technology available to us, I was told that it would be nearly impossible because of the large amount of data that would have to be transferred to allow real-time video communication. Of course, as evidenced by this meeting today and all of our phones, we now know that this challenge could be overcome. And one of the discoveries that allowed the evolution to happen is data compression technology. This video will show how faculty and students at SIU Carbondale are working to move this technology even further forward. If I may be allowed to share my screen, I would like to show this short video.
My name is Stefan Leitner. I'm from Italy. I started here in fall of 2013 as a master's student in electrical engineering, which I finished this last December. And now I'm finishing a master's in mathematics also. So image sensors are the actual components in a camera or imaging device which actually captures the incoming image. So in an image sensor, you have a large array of pixels. For example, in an image sensor with a resolution of 10 megapixels, you have 10 million pixels, and the question is how you capture all this information. In a conventional image sensor, every single pixel is processed individually. So this takes, first of all, more time because it's individual processing. A lot of data is produced because every pixel is converted into data, digital data, and a lot of power also. Conventional image sensor, which does compression, uses a group of pixels together and performs summations to compress the data to a smaller amount, and consequently, less data has to be stored, transmitted, or otherwise processed. This also should take power. So our first step was how to find a new, more efficient method to implement the compressive sensing technique itself. So conventional implementations use random summations on those groups of. My name is. Less data has to be stored, transmitted, or otherwise processed. This also should take power. So our first step was how to find a new, more efficient method to implement the compressive sensing technique itself. So conventional implementations use random summations on those groups of pixels to implement compressive sensing. That is very complicated to do in circuit level. So the advantages are actually not there or not there to the full extent. So we go away from those random summations and form a very regular pattern. That actually is very simple to implement. You can remove a lot of circuitry, a lot of hardware, which is required in conventional compressive sensing image sensors, and therefore dramatically simplify the circuit, make it much more scalable, cheaper, and also reduce the power consumption. So we did simulations in MATLAB and in circuit level, and both ways we found that our technique is of advantage when it comes to power consumption and image quality. For example, power consumption we were able to reduce by a factor 4 or 8 times. And when it comes to image quality, we were able to increase the image quality by about 3.8 decibels. And that is a very dramatic increase in terms of image quality. So this technology should be particularly interesting for companies which are in the image sensing industry, companies which produce camera devices, the sensing devices themselves for all kinds of imaging applications. That is definitely something very exciting to be an inventor, and definitely want you to get more of that kind of work in the future.
All right. right then, well, with that video, and I hope you enjoyed it, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I will turn the presentation now over to Dr. Don Torrey from the SIU School of Medicine in Springfield.
Thank you, Gary, and good morning, everyone. I want to echo Dr. Kinzel's thanks for allowing us to present to the board today. And you have my report in front of you as well, so I won't go through a lot of details on it, but I would like to highlight some of the areas here at the School of Medicine that have been particularly successful in the past fiscal year. First on the list is our metabolism and aging research. This continues to be one of our strengths at the School of Medicine in terms of research emphasis. We've had a number of COVID-related projects as well. The School of Medicine obviously pivoted very abruptly when the pandemic hit and focused not only our research, but also our clinical care initiatives and outreach initiatives to COVID-related pandemic issues. And as you can see, these projects span from the bench side with experimentally induced COVID situations, the lab bench side, and then also to the bedside with new and exciting clinical trials that are ongoing for the treatment of COVID. And then also importantly is a number of community outreach and support projects for the communities that we serve to help them transition through this pandemic and continue to transition through the pandemic. Another aspect that I've focused on in the report is our cancer research initiatives. The Simmons Cancer Institute research initiatives continues with a broad focus to improve cancer care. We have new projects to advance care at the bedside with clinical trials that I've highlighted there. And also importantly, our cancer detection and prevention initiatives in the communities that we serve in central and southern Illinois. And I think as Dr. Kinzel mentioned, these are some of the highlights that I've chosen. There's many others, and I always get a bit nervous when there's a lot to choose from, and I get nervous on which ones to choose. These were just the three areas I chose for this particular fiscal year. On the last page, the fiscal numbers are shown in the graph and table, and we, the School of Medicine, have been successful in increasing our extramural support with an increase from the past 2 years, relatively nice steady increase, which we hope to continue in the future years. Let me highlight though that the expenditures and the active projects that you see on the table there includes our colleagues at the School of Medicine colleagues on the Carbondale campus as well. The video that I have to show you is a video that highlights the research initiatives here at the School of Medicine. It's not a specific project per se, but highlights what we think is important for research and how it contributes to our clinical care mission here at the School of Medicine. This focuses on Dr. Michael Neumeister, our chair of surgery at the School of Medicine, and we do have an appearance from Dean Cruz in this as well. Let me know if I need to turn the volume up if you can't hear it.
The way we teach our medical students, the way we teach our surgeons, that's what SIU is all about. From that trickles down so much more that leads to great patient care, to further research, to improving the future of medicine.
SIU has all kinds of research going on. As a matter of fact, I would say that we are moving really forward in what we call translational research, which includes research on the bench with molecules, moving through research at the bedside with patients and in the clinics, and then out into the community to build better systems of care. We have a Center for Clinical Research that is doing projects that span all that we do at SIU Medicine. Almost any condition that you can think of, we actually are enrolling patients in studies. We're determining new models to move out into the community and determining exactly what the community needs so that we can apply what we've learned in those other arenas to give our patients, to give the people to whom we're accountable the best care they can possibly get.
The mission of the medical school here is to advance patient care, and you can't do that without doing research. You know, one of the great things about working here is not only are we advancing medical science, we are at the same time advancing healthcare in general. Sometimes I'm a patient. When I go to a physician, I do a little background on them. I want to know where they went to medical school. I want to know where they did their residencies, and I want to know what they're doing when they're not in that room with me. So if they're doing research, then I'm automatically assuming that they've got answers to questions that other physicians do not. And I definitely think that impacts, you know, patient care in general.
In the case that I was involved, one with botulinum toxin, Botox, to improve the blood supply in patients that had poor vascularity to the fingers. And now it led to another finding. It actually got rid of their pain in their hands. So now we're trying to investigate how does that happen? So we go back to the lab. Once we figure that out, maybe we'll find something, not injections where you can inject Botox, but we find a molecule that they can take orally, like as a pill. Well, that's kind of fun. And that's when this whole circle of science comes in. So in 100 years, we better be doing something different than what we're doing now. And what it takes is the experienced surgeon or physician with medical students and residents and researchers working together to improve the quality of care.
Thank you, Dr. Gupchuk, for the opportunity to present, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think we could request Dr. Weinberg to present, and then we'll have questions at the end. Is that okay, Dr. Torrey?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Go ahead, Dr. Weinberg.
Thank you very much. And I'd also like to thank the Board of Trustees for allowing us to present on our grants and contracts and research and creative activities efforts. We also, similar to my colleagues, we also early in the pandemic were able to put into place guidelines that followed the mitigations but allowed research and creative activities to continue here on the SIUE campus. And with the support of Provost Cobb, we were able to provide some internal funding this year that would provide to the junior faculty some support that would help them hopefully overcome the issues they had in continuing their research and hopefully bring them back up to speed with where they were prior to the pandemic. We've had a successful year similarly. We had 184 awards in fiscal year 21, totaling $28 million. If you add the COVID relief funds on top of that, that would be $52 million. One of the things that the numbers don't show you that I could also report is the amount per proposal. The amount of funds requested per proposal is up. And that in part is reflecting that we're going at not only after larger grant opportunities, but also multidisciplinary grant opportunities. Similarly to my colleague, Dr. Torrey, I always wonder what I should pick to highlight. I won't go through all the highlights, but I would like to bring attention to the first one on my list, which is a NSF Career Award to Dr. Suzanne DeSalvo in Biological Sciences. The career awards are very competitive and prestigious. This provides 5-year funding to a junior faculty that NSF sees as having great potential in their research as well as their teaching. So we're very proud of that award here at SIUE. I have also chosen a video to highlight some of the research that's done here. It highlights research by Dr. Ken Witt and his team and the School of Pharmacy in developing treatments for Alzheimer's. Of course, Alzheimer's affects millions of Americans, not only those who are impacted directly, but also their families and caregivers. So finding a treatment for Alzheimer's is one of the major things that we need to do. And this work is funded by NIH. And if I'm allowed to share my screen, I will play that video also.
Alzheimer's is a form of dementia that works by slowly destroying the brain, resulting in memory loss, confusion, and eventually the inability to carry out even the simplest of tasks. By 2050, it's estimated that 152 million people worldwide will be diagnosed with some form of dementia. By comparison, that amounts to close to half the entire US population today. Of the top 10 causes of death, Alzheimer's is the only one we can't prevent, cure, or even slow down. It's a devastating, irreversible, and fatal disease, and effective treatments are desperately needed. Despite what some people think, Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of aging. It is a disease associated with the loss of brain tissue. The damaged brain cells are not replaceable. Over time, this dysfunction builds and key connections within the brain are lost, and our ability to remember, form new memories, and connect with the world is forever gone. Given the limited success of current treatments, our focus has moved towards the development of a brain-targeted medication. Through preclinical data and externally supported research, we have identified a viable target receptor called somatostatin subtype 4. This receptor target is located within both the cerebral cortex and the hippocampus, which is an area of the brain involved in learning new things and formulating emotions and new memories. Our research shows strong evidence of somatostatin subtype 4 as the key to unlocking the door to long-term therapeutic Alzheimer's disease treatment. Preclinical data in multiple models of Alzheimer's show an increase in learning and memory with administration of a somatostatin receptor subtype 4 agonist. Additionally, treatment has shown a decrease of toxic amyloid oligomers responsible for the degradation of brain tissue. If fully realized, we will have the capacity to prolong functioning, allowing Alzheimer's patients to not only retain their memories, but also to enhance their ability to form new ones. Such a therapy could reduce or even halt disease progression just by taking a pill. Our team has over 100 years of combined industrial academic expertise in drug development, with skill sets across the fields of computational chemistry, medicinal chemistry, pharmacology, molecular biology, memory behavior, and of course, Alzheimer's disease pathology. We are supported by a $2.65 million grant from the National Institutes of Health, National Institute on Aging, the primary federal agency supporting and conducting Alzheimer's disease research. It is only through research that we can understand what causes the disease, develop effective treatments, improve care, and hopefully one day find a cure. We encourage you to learn more and support the importance of our research and our continued effort to eradicate this devastating disease.
Okay. I should also mention that Dr. Witt and his team have received a patent on their work, and we're very proud of that. So thank you once again. Thank you, Dr. Gupchuk, for allowing us to present.
Thank you, Dr. Kinsel, Dr. Torrey, and Dr. Weinberg for outstanding reports on research, creative activity, and grants. I'm very proud of you, your faculty. And at this point, I would like to congratulate all the PI and co-PIs on both campuses and School of Medicine for their efforts securing grants. And some of these grants are from prestigious institutions in the country, as you mentioned, from National Institute of Health. That shows that our faculty in the system is very competitive, very talented, who can compete throughout the country. Also, I would like to acknowledge and congratulate Dr. Susan DeSalvo at Edwardsville campus for receiving this prestigious National Science Foundation Career Award. That is something the campus and she should be proud of it. Congratulations again to all of you. Thank you. Any other questions from the board chair and the board members? So next item on the Academic Matters Committee agenda is the presentation of geospatial mapping applications and research center at the Edwardsville campus. And Dr. Gupchuk, will you introduce this item?
Certainly, Trustee Sharma. Thank you for those kind words about all the research going on, and thank you to all the researchers. Every time I hear about the research going on, I'm reminded that the marketing schools teach their students the 4 Ps of marketing. But our 4 Ps of marketing here are people, 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 and people. We've got excellent people. And so no doubt that we're doing great work. I'm going to introduce some more excellent people now when we highlight the GeoMark Center. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Randy Pearson, who's a native of Central Illinois. He began his career over 33 years ago at NASA's Space Remote Sensing Center, located at Stennis Space Center. While there, Dr. Pearson rose to the rank of senior scientist, overseeing all commercial applications in the use of remote sensing and GIS. In 1993, Dr. Pearson was lured into industry and spent 2 years as the Director of Compliance Services, International Environmental GIS Division, located in Seattle, Washington. In 1995, he accepted a position at SIU and embarked on a new career as an academician in the Department of Geography. Dr. Pearson's commercial experience and industry contacts provided the necessary resources for the development of a geospatial lab in 1997, and he founded the Laboratory for Applied Spatial Analysis. Over its 24-year history, LASA, which is the laboratory, was awarded over 100 external grants and contracts, providing a continuous source of funding for graduate student assistantships and undergraduate student workers. On July 1st, 2021, LASA transitioned into the Geospatial Mapping, Applications, and Research Center after being granted center status by the Illinois Board of Higher Education. Dr. Pearson currently serves as director. I would like to welcome Dr. Pearson and his students. Dr. Pearson, please take it from here, and please also introduce your students.
Thank you, Dr. Kupchak. I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go ahead and go to a PowerPoint and take you through this in slide format, and I think it'll be a bit more efficient, and I'll introduce the students in that format. So if I can share my screen, please. Okay. So thank you guys for having us today. I'm Dr. Pearson. I'm the director of GeoMark, the Geospatial Mapping Applications and Research Center here at SIU. Before we hear from the students who are presenting today, I would like to give you kind of a brief history of GeoMark and its emergence as a regional leader in geospatial education, research, and community support. GeoMark's first contract was in 1996 with Edwardsville District 7. Dr. Hightower, who some of you may know, tasked us with optimizing school boundaries based on school locations, school capacities, and student populations by grade. However, not only did we help map new school boundaries, we actually formed a strong, long-lasting relationship with District 7. In fact, every month for the past 25 years, we have geocoded District 7's 7,000 plus students, mapping in migration, out migration, and within district migration. But that was simply the first of many relationships that GeoMark has built. The next slide shows the diversity of relationships, the diversity of relationships GeoMark has formed over the last 25 years. Relationships with Monsanto and Bayer, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, the Illinois State Library, the Illinois Corn Marketing Board, Renewable Fuels Association, St. Louis, and the USDA. And then there are the academic and center relationships we formed, co-publishing research or submitting grant applications with the likes of Mizzou, University of Wisconsin, Northwestern, UIC, Energy Resource Center, and Iowa State, just to name a few. The development of GeoMark has been centered around continuing relationships. So I guess the question here is, what has been the result of these relationships? GeoMark, formerly LASS, has completed over 130 grants and contracts, which has provided external funding totaling over $10 million. With this funding, GeoMark has provided over 50 graduate students with assistantships and over 150 undergraduates with student work opportunities or internships. At GeoMark, students learn through doing. To date, GeoMark's funding of students is approaching $2 million. Now, the interesting thing on the graph I'm showing the lower left is this shows the 5-year funding. And this is not a cumulative graph. This is simply a graph of every 5 years of our funding. It started out about $1.5 million every 5 years, and we began to ramp up in about 2007. Two of the last 5 years, we've hit about $3 million. But the thing is, the interesting aspect is during this entire time, I was only doing this part-time. I was a full-time professor teaching 4 to 6 classes a year. I was chair for 7 years of this. And this is the result of simply part-time work. The interesting thing is, as of July 1, I'm now full-time director, and let's see how this graph changes over time. Another thing that's interesting is I looked at the percentage of our total contracts by number, and about a third of our contracts come from local. About a third of these 130 contracts came from private, and about a third of them came from state and federal combined. So we have a nice balance in our distribution of who we actually work with. So I guess in the end, over the past 25 years, GeoMark has evolved into an applied research and development center that operates in the same manner as a teaching hospital. Similar to teaching hospital, GeoMark provides community support through local projects. It educates the next generation's workforce, and it provides solutions to problems through applied research and development. Although GeoMark has grown to 6 full-time employees, students are the center of absolutely everything we do. So as I kind of branch into the student part of this, I want to let you know, these are some of the projects we worked on over the past summer that students were involved in. Matter of fact, I just got a text as we're sitting here from Bayer. We're working on a milkweed monarch butterfly study for those guys across the Midwest. We do a lot of work with Illinois Corn Marketing Board. This past summer, one of the projects was a wind turbine study across the Midwest and its footprint. We have a project with EPA looking at Otter Lake water quality with BLI here on campus, as well as the Center for Predictive Analysis. We do a lot of work with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, and we have a mine shaft mapping project. There are thousands and thousands of mine shafts across the state of Illinois, and trying to find out where they are, where they're located precisely is a real task, and we've taken that on. At the same time, we've done some modernization of the IDNR mine subsidence monitoring program that we work on, and you'll see some of that through Nick Milner and Logan Pello. And lastly, we're working on a USDA grassland wetland mapping project with Northwestern, UIC, Chicago, and working with University of Illinois. This is quite an interesting and in-depth project we're working on, and you'll see some of that as well. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Nick Milner and let him take it from here and show you what we're doing.
Hi, my name is Nick Milner. I'm a second-year graduate student from Auburn, Illinois. In my graduate program, I've focused on remote sensing and geospatial applications. I've been with GeoMark for 3 years now, first as an undergraduate intern and now a graduate research assistant. In that time, I've gained enough experience to take on the role of team lead on many student-led projects. This summer, I was tasked along with Logan Pello to modernize GeoMark's role in the mine subsidence emergency response team based at SIU in cooperation with the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. I'm also the team lead on several of GeoMark's remote sensing projects, including drone imagery collection. One recent project has been a study to map algae blooms with high-resolution satellite imagery in Otter Lake near Girard, Illinois. This is a joint project with SIU's Center for Predictive Analytics and the Biotechnology Laboratory Incubator. Our work on this project includes capturing precise spectral readings at various sites on the lake using a handheld spectroradiometer. Finally, I was asked by GeoMark's senior scientist to explore the possibility of using Google Earth Engine, which is a cloud-based remote sensing platform for satellite data collection and analysis over large areas. Not only has this allowed me to learn and grow my remote sensing and coding skills, it has also allowed GeoMark to generate large data sets for a project with Northwestern and UIC for identifying wetlands in Illinois with machine learning. I've also worked closely with GeoMark's GIS specialist, Zach Schlischer, to develop and administer a K-12 education program at the Collegiate School of Medicine and Bioscience in St. Louis, as well as continuing GeoMark's 10-year history of teaching geospatial technology at Edwardsville High School. On Tuesday, GeoMark attended GeoResolution, a local geospatial industry conference. One member of the Young Professionals panel specifically mentioned our K-12 education program as the spark that ignited his passion for the field. Thank you.
Next, we have Logan Pello.
Hi, my name is Logan Pilo, and I'm from Staunton, Illinois. I'm in my last semester as a geography and GIS undergraduate here at SIUE, and I originally became involved with GeoMark as a subsidence monitoring surveyor. However, when Dr. Pearson found out about my Python coding experience, I was invited to do a Python programming internship over the summer. And that experience has grown into a part-time internship here on other projects. On top of getting valuable Python experience, I was also teamed up with Nick Milner to modernize the processes we use when surveying mine subsidence. Nick focused on the field applications modernization, while I developed and implemented an ArcGIS online spatial database that allows us to manage much more easily our over 110 survey sites across the state of Illinois. We also developed a system of mobile device integration that allows our database to be updated live from a device anywhere in the field. Those updates can then be seen from survey managers in the office and the engineers within the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, whom this project directly supports. Over the summer, we digitized over 30 years of subsidence surveying records for the IDNR and use that to build a subsidence site workflow that allows us to pair up surveys by distance and difficulty. This program had rarely, if ever, completed more than one survey in a day. And now with our management techniques, having 2 or 3 surveys a day is pretty regular. While these modernization processes have had a huge benefit to our internal processes, our collective experience this summer on the Mines project has gotten us all thinking of ways to improve our techniques for tracking subsidence. We are developing a methodology to apply synthetic aperture radar technology to track subsidence events in real time. We presented these summer developments to the 2021 GeoResolutions conference that Nick mentioned this past Tuesday, which put us into contact with industry leaders and the director of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. This is a picture of us. We all presented some posters at that conference. A large portion of the conference was dedicated to building a geospatial ecosystem in the St. Louis area. The experiences I've had at GeoMark have given me the confidence to pursue graduate school at SIUE in the spring and to become a part of this larger St. Louis geospatial ecosystem in the future. Thank you.
Stephanie.
Good morning. My name is Stephanie Pryor. I'm a non-traditional senior here at SIUE, where I'm pursuing a degree in geography and a minor in GIS. I am set to graduate this spring, and I'm applying for graduate school here at SIUE in the fall. Over this last summer, I've had the opportunity to work on many different projects here at GeoMark, including utilizing Esri's Field Maps mobile application to validate the geospatial database that Nick and Logan created. I'm also participated in collecting spectroradiometer data, performed preliminary research in support of the Milkweed Project for Bear, and gathered imagery in support of the Wind Turbine Project. The latter part of my summer was spent working with graduate students Sarah Chamberlain and Clayton Pearson on a machine learning and AI project testing different algorithms for land cover classification in Whiteside County, Illinois. Ultimately, we tested 3 different machine learning algorithms: a J48 decision tree, random forest, and multi-layer perceptron, which is a backpropagation neural net. In the end, we found that the random forest algorithm offered the most accurate and efficient classification. We presented these findings at the GeoResolution conference last Tuesday, where it was well received, and SIUE was acknowledged as being a major source of students for the geospatial ecosystem in the St. Louis area. However, as a non-traditional student, my most valuable takeaway from my experiences at GeoMark has been a sense of purpose, self-confidence, and self-worth. Without my time at GeoMark, I would not have had the ability to sit here and talk to you all today. Thank you for your time.
Alyssa.
Hey, hello, everyone. My name is Alyssa Hogue, and like Stephanie before me, I am also a non-traditional student. I came into GeoMark as an undergraduate mine subsidence surveyor, where I worked hard and earned a graduate assistantship with the lab. As a graduate assistant, I've continued my subsidence survey fieldwork in addition to performing mine subsidence and shaft data analyzation and validation. The lower left photo shows me in the field as part of the summer survey crew, and the lower center picture is just a few of the data logbooks that I poured over this summer to validate survey point locations for Logan's Geospatial database. But before I get into descriptions about our mine shaft program, Dr. Pearson is going to set the stage for this analysis.
Thanks, Alyssa. So what you see right here is a website we put together for IDNR. And this shows the mine areas of potential mine subsides across the state. These are actually areas of underground mines that have been abandoned. And what we've done is each of these mines have a fairly detailed mine map that was surveyed underground. We've taken about 10,000 mine maps over the last 15 to 20 years, and we've scanned them high resolution. We've georeferenced them and placed them spatially where they go, actually on the earth. And what this is allowing us to do, and I'm going to give you a little example. I'm going to zoom in. This is actually SIUE, and this is Edwardsville. You can see the red bounding box with the light yellow area. This shows an area of underground mining that's been abandoned. So we're going to zoom in right here to this little area. It's a small subdivision called Essex. And what we have here, this is a high resolution aerial image, but under this, or under the ground, there is a mine. And this is the mine map that we actually have. We put this positionally where it's supposed to go by scanning it, picking points on the surface of this mine map, and georeferencing it so that it lays under the map itself. So this is a small automation that we're going to show you that actually takes you through the process of making this transparent. And I'm going to zoom in just a second, and it will take you in and show you what we can do with it. This actually shows you the bounding area around the outside right here of, let's go to this. This is the bounding area of where there's no underground mines. This is the area where we can see mines. These large area here, these are pillars. These are void areas where the coal is actually gone. But what's interesting about this is this mine information is now spatially registered over the landscape. So we're like seeing through the landscape into the underground mine cavity. But we also, on these mine maps, have locations of shafts. So they're very, very important. And so this is the information that we use to understand where the mine shafts are. And Alyssa's going to show you some of that analysis she did this summer.
So moving clockwise from the top left, we have an aerial image of a baseball field in northern Edwardsville. The yellow dot near the bottom of the screen in the middle represents the estimated location of a mine shaft from the Illinois geographical ISGS. To the right of that is the mine map of the same area, and circled in red is the actual true location of the shaft. The lower left shows the integration of the two layers and the real location of the mine shaft in comparison with the ISGS location. And then that final photo, I actually walked to this location, and it was pretty amazing because you could feel the dip in the ground where the fill shaft is compacting. And this our work proved that the actual location of the mine shaft was about 85 feet north of the ISGS location that they previously thought. So the importance of our work is illustrated in every survey we perform, as most of our survey sites are in residential areas and thus impact entire communities. We are the face of IDNR's mine subsidence program, and we serve as a bridge between the state and the community. While my studies are not GIS specific, my work with GeoMark has allowed me to explore and get experience in expanding facets of geographical research. This experience has proven invaluable as I now have the confidence and know-how to investigate, analyze, and problem solve real-world challenges with real-time consequences. Thank you again for your time.
The last thing I'll talk about really quickly, and Dr. Weinberg wanted me to mention this, is all the work that you saw, the mine subsidence monitoring, the big database we put together with respect to the mine maps, the see-through. This was used extensively by IDNR, and they recently won an award by the Office of Surface Mines for 2021 for their work on the Wolf Branch Middle School SAG. And the interesting thing is this entire award is on the shoulders of all the work that students have done here at Geomark for the last 20 years. We did all the surveying of the Wolf Branch School. We did all the mine mapping and positioning of the mine map so they could see where to drill, where to put in the grout beneath the school to actually save the school. So this gives you kind of an update on how we approach our problems, how we train our students, and the rewards we sometimes get from this. Thank you. And are there any questions?
Well,
stop sharing.
First of all, any questions from anybody before we thank Dr. Pearson?
Just a comment, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. It shows that the university is involved in our communities and in the life of it. And just speaking as a plaintiff's lawyer, this mine subsidence thing is a big deal because obviously the roads will collapse and the taxpayers are going to have to fix the road. So who won't, it's a big issue, and I really appreciate the thought leadership involved in taking this on. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Pearson, this is just an outstanding presentation, and thank you for creating this center. This will be, as Trustee Simmons said, very useful. And we have these, at least near Carbondale in Herrin, there were 2 houses where mines subsidized under them within last 10 or 15 years since I have been here. So this whole area is quite vulnerable to these kind of issues. And I would like to even thank you more for your commitment and involving graduate and undergraduate students in your research for over 25 years. That is something amazing. I wish you would have got some time off for doing all this when you were at the Edwardsville campus. I know Dr. Cobb is laughing now, but this is something amazing.
Thank you so much.
This is pure amazing thing you have done, because I have been involved some grants with USGS and some colleagues on with geography from here at Carbondale campus. These things take time.
Yes.
And my hats off to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
If board chair would like to congratulate Dr. Pearson and his students.
Okay. Anything further, Dr. Sharma?
No, if you would like to congratulate Dr. Pearson, I thought to draw your attention.
Okay.
I think he can't hear due to connections, but I'm sure he is very impressive. Again, thank you, Dr. Pearson.
You're asking me. I was just going to make a comment that at every one of these meetings, I'm just totally amazed at what our faculty, staff, and students are doing for humanity, and how they're trying to make this a better world for everyone to live in. And what the work that we are doing on each of our campuses, not only for the benefit of the community, but for entire state and region and nation. And we are definitely a leader. I just can't be more impressed and proud of the faculty, staff, and students that we have in our Southern Illinois University system.
Yeah, I'd like to make one final comment, if I could.
Yes.
My final comment is this, every generation thinks that the next generation is going to taking the world apart. It's just falling. My grandparents thought my parents were ruining the world. My parents thought I was ruining the world, and I thought my students, my kids are ruining the world. But the fact of the matter is, when you're around enough students like this, what you recognize is even the world that we're in right now, even is complicated if it is, I have a lot of faith that this next generation truly has some solutions. So I'm not, as I get older, I'm not as panicked as I was 10 years ago. We're working with these students. I realize they have solutions. And I think the world is in good hands with this next generation. I really, really do it. And I'm very proud of my students and how they solve problems and how they address situations like this. So thank you, guys.
Well, I think there's no question, we're all proud of you and your students and for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
As Chair Gilbert said, this is another testimony. SIU system has outstanding faculty on all the campuses, and we are really proud of them. Now, any other business for this committee? If there is no other business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Trustee Sharma. The next meeting is the Audit Committee meeting. Trustee Curtis, will you please proceed?
Meeting of the Audit Committee is now in session. The first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes held December 3rd, 2020. Is there a motion to approve the minutes, please?
Moved.
Madam Secretary, could you please perform the roll call vote?
Curtis,
Yes.
Genovese,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 2 is a presentation of the FY20 audit of the SIU system by Kim Labonte, the Executive Director of Audit. Kim, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Trustee Curtis. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. Good afternoon. It's nice to see everybody. I'm here today to present the fiscal year 20 audits of the system that were conducted by Plant Moran as Special Assistant Auditors to the Illinois Office of the Auditor General. You might be thinking that it's a little late in the year to be receiving this report, and you would be correct. Like everything else, the pandemic has made the completion of the audit a challenge. The financial report was finally released on May 25th of 21, and it received an unqualified opinion. And then the compliance report, including the federal single audit, was released on July 13th, and it too received an unmodified opinion. Links to these reports were shared with members of the audit committee at their time of the release, and these reports were also filed with the U.S. Department of Education and the Federal Audit Clearinghouse promptly upon their release. In your materials today, you should have received a summary of the findings that were reported for your reference during this presentation. In total, these reports contained 18 audit findings, 7 of which were repeated from the prior year. And for comparison purposes, the fiscal year 19 audit included 10 findings, also with 7 of them repeated from the prior year. Unfortunately, this is the second highest number of findings that the SIU system has ever had, just less than U of I and EIU, which had 19 and 20 respectively this year. The 18 current year findings include 2 financial reporting matters, 8 federal compliance matters, and 8 general state compliance matters. I'll first start with the discussion of the financial reporting matters. All Illinois public universities received a finding regarding a lack of a reconciliation process to provide assurance that census data submitted to the pension and other post-employment benefit plans was complete and accurate. Work to remedy this finding is underway on both campuses. Also, SIUC failed to detect an incorrect value for an in-kind contribution of capital assets when preparing the system financial statements, which resulted in an overstatement of capital assets. Controls have been strengthened, though, to reduce the chance of similar errors occurring in the future. Regarding federal compliance findings, federal findings relate to the handling of federal grant funds and financial aid matters, and they unfortunately continue to be common at SIU and increasingly difficult to fully remediate. Of the 8 federal compliance findings noted this cycle, 3 of them are repeated from prior years, while 3 of them relate to our handling and reporting of HERF funding received under the CARES Act. One of the findings relates to HERF funding. One of the findings that's related to the HERF funding contains question costs totaling $219,000. And this finding relates to the use of HERF funding by the Carbondale campus to make payments for lost wages to student workers who continue to work and earn wages during the campus closure. However, it's important to note that We are in disagreement with the auditors on their conclusion on this matter, and we'll be waiting for further communication from the U.S. Department of Education before we take any kind of corrective action on that. The remaining federal compliance weaknesses that were noted are primarily the result of decreased enrollment in certain grant programs and a lack of monitoring, human error, or limited resources to ensure compliance. Unfortunately, though, federal findings, once reported, are typically difficult to resolve, as there is no tolerance for error at the federal level. As such, it's important that sufficient resources be dedicated to the corrective actions needed to mitigate those noted weaknesses in order to avoid future consequences. Repeated federal audit findings can often lead to increased scrutiny by our federal awarding agencies and potentially making it more difficult to administer grants or process financial aid for our students. Lastly, I'll talk about the state compliance findings. Those findings include such matters as weaknesses in computer inventory control, the university's failure to require faculty to file timesheets, weaknesses in cybersecurity and other IT security practices, and non-compliance with statutory mandates, including the SIU Management Act and the Illinois Articulation Initiative. With regard to these state compliance findings, 4 of the 8 are repeated from the prior year, with 3 of them persisting for 5 or more years. The finding regarding the SIU Management Act involves appointments to the Ethanol Research Advisory Board, and it was first reported in fiscal year 15. SIU did seek legislative change in fiscal year 20, which has passed and should help remedy this matter going forward. The finding on weaknesses in inventory control was first reported in fiscal year 12. During fiscal year 20, as a system, we were unable to locate 71 computer-related items during the annual inventory process. All 3 campuses have enhanced property control procedures over the years in response to this audit finding. The campuses have conducted thorough physical inventories and have implemented additional software resources to aid in the tracking process. And property control staff continue to devote available resources to improving the inventory process, including the training of departmental staff who are responsible for performing the annual physical inspections. Additionally, the university continues its efforts to identify and mitigate the risk of sensitive data on computers across campus. Lastly, the timesheet matter is the oldest of the repeat findings, and it was first reported as a finding in fiscal year 05. This finding will likely be repeated until the university is either able to successfully negotiate with faculty regarding preparation of timesheets or to seek legislative change with respect to the underlying legislation. Many of the Illinois public universities continue to receive this finding annually. Legislation has been introduced, though, to remove faculty from the definition of state employee in the State Officials and Employees Ethics Act, which would eliminate this timesheet matter. However, to the best of my knowledge, this legislation has not made any progress in Springfield yet. In addition to these 18 material findings, a report of immaterial findings was issued by the audit firm, which included 3 immaterial matters, and these matters are being given sufficient attention by campus staff. My staff have identified a responsible person for all of the findings issued, and we will be working with the departments to encourage the timely completion of corrective actions. This concludes my summary of the fiscal year 20 reports, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have any questions for our audit leader? Hearing none, I want to thank Kim for her extraordinary leadership of the audit function, both from her ability to maintain independence, but also her and her staff's willingness to work with departments so that they don't hold things back during the audit process. So Kim, extraordinary job you're doing. If there's no other business before the audit committee, this meeting stands adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Curtis. The next meeting is a Finance Committee meeting. Mr. Tedrick, you may proceed.
The Finance Committee meeting is now in session, and the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the meeting held July 15th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Edrick,
Yes?
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sharma,
Have we lost him?
he might have
No,
stepped
he's
away.
there.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, the minutes are approved. The next item, the resource allocation and management program operations and capital request for fiscal year 2023, which is board agenda item K, will be with joint discussion with the Architecture and Design Committee, and we'll all vote on it together. Dr. Stuckey?
Mr. Chair, each year we are required to submit a request for operating funds and capital projects to IBHE. It's part of the ramp process that was developed many decades ago by IBHE. The detail, a summary of what is in our operating request is on table 1 of the board matter. Over the last 20 years, as you know, been a general decline in state funding for Illinois higher education. So our request for operations has evolved into appeal to keep the funding level we already have. And that's what you see displayed in table 1. We ask for inflationary adjustments to keep up with inflation. And we ask that our historical add-ons, which have been won by special legislative effort, are continued. This year, we add 2 more projects, 2 more funding projects, and that is to provide support for the rural health program and for the community engagement program, board initiatives, to signal to the IBHE that we will welcome any special legislative support we can get for those 2 efforts. Table 2 contains a list of our capital projects. It is virtually a repeat from last year, adjusted for inflation, except for the fact that we have added 1 item, and that is in the priority list, we have added a physical health and athletic performance building for SIUE at a cost of $15 million. This was done in response to the president receiving a positive response about that. Can you hear me?
Yes.
From the president receiving a positive response about the project from our local legislative delegations. We ask your approval of these. This is a request.
A question for you, Dr. Stuckey, on table 2, where the priority list of regular capital projects, the first 2 are in the planning stage. Is that what that means?
Correct.
And haven't been funded as of this time. And then the medical education building, where it says construction, that means it's already gone through the planning process. It's the architect.
It hasn't been funded by the state. I believe it's Dean, the School of Medicine expects to fund the planning for that project.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, so is there any discussion? Is there a motion for the Finance Committee and Architectural Design Committee to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote of both committees.
Finance Committee, Tedrick,
Yes?
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
and Architecture and Design Committee, Simmons,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
and Tedrick.
Yes. This item is approved by both committees. Committee item 3 proposes approval of fiscal year 2022 operating budget. President Mahoney, will you speak to this? I know you've already presented it to the board, but do you have anything further to say?
No, I think we presented our budget. Again, it's $130 million total for the system. I think talked through many of the details within the budget, but if there are questions, we're certainly willing to answer those.
Is there any discussion? Is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve this item?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Subash?
Yeah, I second.
I thought so. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Tedrick,
Yes?
Clinton, Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
This item is approved. Item number 4 is approval of salary and appointment for the interim associate provost for academic administration at SIUC. Chancellor Lane.
Thank you, Trustee Chedrick. Following a retirement this summer with Dr. David Delilah, did an incredible job. The university launched an internal search to identify an interim associate provost for academic administration. This position serves a critical role in ensuring the administrative work within the provost office related to hiring policy, faculty and staff contracts, compliance with collective bargaining agreements, and the promotion and tenure and sabbatical processes, among other duties. There were 6 candidates for the position and all were interviewed, including open forums with the deans and interviews with the provost. The recommended candidate is Dr. Mark Morris. He's a tenured professor in the School of Accountancy, who was most recently, he served as the director of the School of Accountancy before accepting this interim assignment. So I'm pleased to recommend Dr. Mark Morris for your consideration.
Thank you, Chancellor. Is there any discussion or questions? Is there a motion for the Finance Committee to approve this item?
So moved.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote. Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
And this item is approved. The last item, number 5, is Committee Item 5 proposes approval of salary increase plan for fiscal year 2022. SIU, Board Agenda Item N. Senior Vice President Stuckey, will you speak to this item?
For your information, attached to this board matter is a table that gives the average salary increases that were approved for our campuses each year back to 2004. For this year, the School of Medicine is proposing a 2.5%, 2.5% average salary increase, while the remainder of the system is proposing a 2% salary increase. The proposed increases are to be effective July 1 for Edwardsville, while increases for the remainder of the system would be effective October 1. We seek your approval.
Is there any discussion? Do I hear a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
So second.
Madam Secretary, please perform the roll call vote.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
And this item is approved. There's no other further business. This committee is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Tedrick. The next meeting is Architectural and Design Committee meeting. Mr. Simmons, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only action item for this committee is the approval of minutes for April 29, 2021. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
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 Ms. Whittington, do you mind calling the roll?
Simmons,
Yes.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Hedrick,
Yes.
Thank you.
That must have worn the chair out.
Well, close to it. The remaining item is the resource allocation and management program ramp operations and capital request for the FY 2023 board agenda item K. And we've already discussed and voted on that. So unless there's other business for this architect and design committee, this meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Simmons. Okay, I'm now going to reconvene the full board meeting. The next item of business is approval of the minutes of the meeting of the board held July 15th of 2021. Is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Whittington, please call the roll.
was it Roger Tedrick who seconded that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Genovese,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the minutes are approved. Are there any trustee reports? I don't think there's any. Next, for the committee reports, I'll report that the executive committee has not met between board meetings, but it did meet this morning to approve the board's 2022 meeting schedule. Our next item of business is the executive officer's report. President Mahoney, will you present your report for the SIU system?
Yeah, and my report will be relatively brief. I did want to give just an update on our COVID plans and what's going on with that right now across the system. So as many people know, the executive order requires us to make sure that our students and faculty and staff are vaccinated or participating in regular testing. That goes into effect now the 19th, so that's coming up on Sunday. I will say we've gotten just great support from the governor's office, from our local health partners, whether the health systems, the health departments, everybody, to make sure that we have both the capacity to vaccinate and we have regular vaccination available on both campuses, on all campuses, as well as our testing capacity is now up to the point where we can test at the level that we need to. So again, we're getting the support that we need to do that. We're getting continuing to get more people attesting the fact that they've had the vaccination. That's probably been maybe the more slowest part and the more difficult part of getting people to actually submit the cards to show that they've been vaccinated, but that's again picking up as well. I will say in general, what we have been doing so far between mask wearing, testing and everything else has seemed to be effective. We're seeing a similar pattern to what we saw last fall and last spring, where our highest numbers seem to be about a week or so after we arrived back and then are starting to decline. So I think we're up in the maybe upper 30s on both campuses. A couple of weeks ago now, it's down to 20s is where we're at last week, 20-25 range. So it's gone down again. So again, continuing with the mask wearing, continuing with the other safety precautions seems to be working well, and not seeing anything that would indicate any major change in what our plans are for the fall semester. Second thing to just say again, thank you to all those working on the strategic plan that was mentioned earlier. Again, it is a complicated process. We've never really done this as a system before, and I think one of the things is figuring out what is the role of the system versus the campuses and making sure that our plan is really focusing on how the system can support and enhance our campuses and make that's more successful as a whole. And so trying to figure out some of that has taken a lot of discussion, but I think it's worthwhile discussion. But as I mentioned before, we continue to move forward on many things. I will say as well, IBHE finished their strategic planning process up in the spring, and I think there's a lot of alignment with what they are doing and what we're doing. And I've actually been asked to speak to the trustees. There's a trustees conference on October 13th, just about how that alignment works. And in fact, we've just in the last couple of weeks had a number of discussions about ways that I think we can enhance our outreach to adult learners, help out with providing opportunities to get college credit when you're in high school to students, ways as a system, maybe we can provide more support for that. Those are very much a part of the state strategic plan. So excited about all of those types of things. Also will say again, I mentioned in a note to the board that we had a request for some information on a couple different areas where we're doing computer science, career placement, and others. I will be sending that report out to you in just a bit. But if you have questions on that after you receive it, just let me know. But that is my report.
Okay, thank you, President Mahoney. Chancellor Lane?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Gilbert. And I think we have a presentation that we'll pull up, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to present. I tell you what, this first couple of weeks have been exciting. Welcome week activities. I'll go to the next slide here for whoever's driving this for me. Our students are just showing an incredible amount of enthusiasm across our campus. And these are just a few shots of how actively engaged those students have been over the first couple of weeks. It's obvious they're excited they're back in person. They're doing a really good job out of the gate with wearing their mask and doing different things. Outside, obviously, you see some shots there where they're not, but they've been doing a really good job in complying with the things that we've been putting in place here. So really excited to interact with them, and it's good to see them back walking around campus. Next slide. A very unfortunate and tragic death of one of our students from Chicago, Kishana Jackson, Really proud of our campus for rallying around not only her family and her friends here on campus. We held several events to recognize Kishana and really just a sad couple of days there, and we still continue to try and move forward there and remember her in the best way that we can. But I'd be remiss if I didn't at least bring up how much we have been working to try and heal and move forward. We have a scholarship fund that's been established in her honor, and so really excited about that. And so we continue to stay in touch with her family, and just a very unfortunate and tragic event. I want to thank the board and everyone who has supported us during this tough time, and really appreciate your thoughts and prayers. Next slide. Our Imagine SIU Carbondale, you heard the president talk about strategic planning and how the system is wrapping it up. We're in the same position now with our Imagine SIUC in 2030. And so you'll start to see a lot of our materials and the things that we're focused on with our measures, our targets, our key performance indicators, our pillars. All of those things will start to come together for SIU Carbondale in terms of how we move forward. Next slide. These are just some of the pillars that we're focused on. These are the top 5 pillars that emerged that we'll be laser focused on with those measures and targets and areas that we're trying to enhance and increase. Obviously, number 1 is going to be student success and engagement, diversity, equity, and inclusion, research, academics, and innovation, sustainability, branding, and partnerships. And so our plan will be circulated early next month to our campus community. And again, these are going to be areas that we'll focus on and always give reports on throughout the year when we come back to you. Next slide. This is what we're really excited about. If you remember our numbers back in the fall of 2016, I think we were down about 8%. In 2017, we were down 9%. 2018, I think we were down 12%. So we had large percentages of us being down in enrollment. Last year, this was our second year in a row with a freshman enrollment increase, which we're really excited about. Our new freshmen, we were up 4.5%. And I will tell you the amount of work that's being done from our faculty, our staff, our students, our alums, our community members is incredible. People have jumped right in and they know the enrollment is truly the focus. It's everyone's job and it's really paying off. Our transfer numbers look really good. We're up 3.5% in transfers. It's because of our partnership, not only our regional or local community colleges, but across the state. We're really working hard to make sure those pathways and pipelines are open. Our 34% increase from students from the Southern Illinois region. That's another big number for us. If you talk to folks in the region, they will tell you that they wanted us to do a lot more with engaging with folks here in the region. Doesn't mean we're not recruiting out of the region, but it does mean that internally or here in the region, that's definitely a priority. Applications are up 16%. That's a very big number. For us, we're excited about that, and it's something that we'll continue to try and work on our conversion of those applications to registrations. And so a lot of efforts that are being put in place to do that. We have 36% of our students who identify as minority, and for the first time in years, our female students are now outpacing our male students. That was really strange when I arrived, that we have more male than female. Most campuses that I've worked on have always had more female than male. And so we are starting to move that number and arrow up. So really excited. Our about flat overall in our enrollment for us. We see that as a celebration number given the declines that we've had over the years in the past. And so really excited about the efforts that folks have made. Next slide. Just really good pride points here. Our Campus Pride, a leading LGBTQ campus rating and information index. They named our university as a 2021 Best of the Best LGBTQ friendly campus. We're really excited about that. That's a very big pride point for us as we continue to recruit and make sure that we're an inclusive environment and a welcoming environment. Really excited about that. We celebrated our second annual Diversity Week from August 30th to September 3rd. Lots of excitement. Our new Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, very instrumental in helping that week. Our students helped out with that week as well. We had a nice support from Dr. Sheila Caldwell, our new Vice President at System Office. And so really excited about the energy and the excitement. We're now celebrating, actually yesterday I attended our first kickoff event for Hispanic Heritage Month. It's from September 15th through October 15th, and really excited about what they're getting ready to do for the entire month and even beyond just the month of the Hispanic Latinx month. So really, really hats off to our group that's working there. Next slide. Our faculty, and you saw today, we had one of the first, our innovator, that was really good to be able to see the accomplishments there this morning in the presentation. We have other faculty doing incredible things. Our Farhan, you see him in the top left there, Associate Professor of Mechanical Engineering, has received a $442,000 grant from NIH to study how stem cells become specific tissue. Professor Ken Anderson, Mechanical Engineering student, Nelson Fernandez, they received the Illinois Innovation Network's inaugural awards, doing an outstanding job there. So really excited about the work that's happening. Just a bit of information. Dr. Anderson is the director of the Advanced Coal and Energy Research Center and founder of a company that uses his patented process to treat coal, wood, or agricultural byproducts with oxygen in superheated water and break them down into useful projects. In Nelson, if you run into Nelson, I tell you, he's an exciting young man, but he's been extensively involved in the innovative Green Roof Sustainability Project at the agricultural building. So always good to see the work that he's doing, as well as our faculty. They do a tremendous job. Next slide. Our campus, you saw one of the pillars that we're focused on is sustainability. And so a lot of the work that we have that's with our students, with our faculty, you heard it mentioned earlier about the importance of having students that arrive to be able to engage in undergraduate research and work with our faculty members. They're doing some incredible things. If you come to our campus, you'll see the green roof and you'll see some other things that are happening there that's really cutting edge. And so we're really excited to be able to focus on that pillar going forward. Next slide. Some of the work that you'll see on the left-hand side are some of our billboard campaigns to really, as we start to not rebrand, but really enhance our brand with this focus of Imagine SIUC. Really the point we're trying to get across, when you're imagining things, you're really being pretty optimistic and you're dreaming. And you're thinking about things that you can do. And so we're trying to really grab the attention of folks that are out there that want to become all the things that we offer here in our academic programs and show them how they can do it. So we're putting real live folks who are actually a part of our alums or part of our students that are here or in our academic programs on the board, so people can really begin to imagine what they can do if they receive a degree from here and if they attend the university. So a lot of work being done there. Eventually we'll move to our website and to do some other things there with our materials, but really excited. The picture on the left is our thank you to all of our superintendents, our principals that are here in the region. We had breakfast with them the other day. We continue to go out to them personally and thank them for helping us get our enrollment up. For helping us get that 34% increase in the region. And so it's more of a high touch strategy that we're trying to employ there. We also have some activities that will take us to Chicago and other areas that we're really targeting for enrollment for traditional and non-traditional students. And so we're really excited about the strategic enrollment management plans that we have in place to try and capture more students for the university. Last slide is our Protect the Pack. And this is for us, I tell you, it's been a team effort, folks, to really pull together and try and navigate and be flexible. And so really, I'm pleased to announce we have our vaccination clinic that's here on campus. We have our testing clinic that's here on campus. Those are going very well. Our employees are telling us whether or not they've been vaccinated or if they're going through the weekly testing protocol. by the September 19th executive order date that's out there. And so really excited about that. Our goal is to stay here in person, and our hope is that we can stay here in person and we'll be as safe as we can. I want hats off to Shaylee, our student trustee. She was very instrumental in setting up our campus-wide student Zoom that we had on Monday, where we fielded several questions from students and answered a lot of questions and made sure that they knew and understood exactly what we needed to do going forward. So on that note, thank you very much. Be glad to take any questions.
Any questions of Dr. Lang?
Dr. Lane, this is Ed Curtis. If I could ask a quick question.
Yes.
Very impressed with your strategic enrollment work and the increase we've seen. What percentage of our classes on campus are in person versus still being remote?
We have, and Provost, I'm looking down at you. If I get this number wrong, let me know, but we should have close to 90, would you say 2%? What's our number, Mira?
So right now,
Face
all
to
of
face.
our, yeah, I would say that 90+%, because all of our classes that are traditionally face-to-face are face-to-face. But there are a few faculty who have, because of medical reasons, they go through the ADA process, and then they have permission to offer it online. But otherwise, all of our fall 19 classes that were face-to-face are face-to-face this semester. We still do offer our through extended campus, those that we have been offering online.
That's
But that is-
fantastic. And the reason I bring that up is I think when you look at parents and students, everybody understood last year, but as we're going forward, the more in-person class time we can have is going to help further grow our enrollment.
Yeah, that, and Trustee Curtis, you hit the nail on the head. When we announced that we would be back in person early on, we think it actually secured a lot of that incoming freshman class and those parents that were thinking about what they were going to do. So we announced it relatively early, and it allowed them to make some decisions. Most were telling us if we were going to be online, they weren't going to show up. So you hit the nail on the head, and I think that helped us.
Okay, any other questions of Dr. Lane? If not, Dean Cruz, will you present your report for the School of Medicine?
Sure. I'm going to talk about the collective performance of some of our learners, and the learners I'm going to talk about are going to be the medical students, which make up about 300 of our 900 learners here. With all the graduations and white coat ceremonies, new students coming in, we talk a lot about what it means to become a physician. Among other things, the medical students need to show excellence in the art of medicine, teamwork of medicine, the science of medicine, and the knowledge of medicine. Now, the knowledge of medicine is no more important than the other three, but it gets to be very important for the standardized tests that the students have to take that are necessary for admission to the medical school, licensure, and board certification. So here's a little schematic of that. For admission to medical school, we have a minimum score on the MCAT that gets them an interview. Beyond that, we don't use the MCAT much for ranking students. But then for licensure, medical students have to perform well and pass 3 steps of the United States medical licensing exam. Step 1 at the end of the second year, step 2 at the end of their third year of medical school, and step 3, 1 year after graduation at the end of their first year of residency. After that, and after they can become fully licensed, they go into residency programs, which are 3 to 7 to 9 years in length, and finish their residency program. Then they have to sit for an examination given by a specialty society from the American Board of Medical Specialties for the certifying examination. Now, the School of Medicine gets information for the MCAT and for step 1 and 2 of USMLE for each of our medical students. And we get comparisons to all other medical schools in the United States. So we are one medical school with about 80 students entering per year. And the other medical schools, well, there are 155 of them with 21,500 students entering, and we have those comparisons. So now I'm going to show you a graph of those 3 comparisons, MCAT, step 1, step 2. It's a little busy, but I'll explain it well. So on the y-axis is the percentile scored of our medical students compared to medical students at other the other 155 medical schools. On the, the x-axis is the year of graduation. So you see all the way to the end, we have data for 2024. That's our current second year students, and that's their MCAT score. So the red line is the SIU, not USMLE. The red line is the SIU MCAT score, the admissions test to medical school. In about 2000, we went into holistic admission. And so we took more risks on medical students than other medical schools did, but we thought that our curriculum would actually allow them to shine. So the purple line is their USMLE Step 1 score. So that compares them to their cohort 2 years later. You'd expect half of the medical schools to have purple lines below the red lines and half to have them above. And you can see the significant separation there between the red line and the purple line, indicating a value-added performance by SIU students. And then green is USMLE Step 2 for our students compared to other medical schools. And you see it almost parallels the purple line. So the class of 2022, the blue dots I just put on, that's our senior medical students, year 4 students. After their second year, 100% of them passed the examination, and this is their percentile, 33% percentile points higher than their MCAT percentile. Almost unbelievable, certainly unheard of anywhere that I've ever seen. We'll continue to follow all of these things. I'll also say that for the class before them, we had 100% pass rate. We've got scores in for 67 of our students for the next dot, the class of 2023. All of them have passed. You would have expected among first-time takers of USMLE Step 1 in the US that we would have had 10 failures, but we had 0 in those 3 years with that incredible increase in performance. It just goes to show the innovative, creative faculty members on the cutting edge of education, and us being a community-based medical school with our partners who develop an environment that our students thrive and become better. And I'll tell you, the way we do admissions gives us a rich diversity in our class that a lot of other medical students don't have either. So this is the last side. The students also get to rate us with the medical school graduation questionnaire every year. I was studying the narrative comments yesterday, and this one came up. COVID was a disruption, but our school managed that with aplomb. And I thought, well, I better look that up. So I've got the real context of that. So here's the definition: self-confidence or assurance, especially when in a demanding situation. And the pandemic certainly is a demanding situation. And I know the student wrote this about our school, but I will tell you, the first thing I thought about was how the SIU system has responded during the pandemic. And I'll just say, it has been a pleasure and an honor to work with President Mahoney and Chancellor Lane and Chancellor Pembroke and all the other leaders to balance risk and benefit, to be safe, to get our core functions done, to be innovative and creative, and to do it with a sense of self-confidence and assurance that other people see. So I think I just had to get a good smile on my face from what that student had to say. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. I'll stop sharing here if I can. There we go. All right.
Okay. Any questions of Dean Cruz? And Chancellor Pembroke?
There you go. All right.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
Right now.
Okay, very good. Let me start again. So thank you for this opportunity to talk to you about SIUE and what's happening here. I have organized my presentation around 3 themes. The first is enrollment, which relates to strategic plan goal 1. The second theme is traditions, which relates to students and strategic plan goal 3. And the third is around community and our constituents, which is strategic plan goal 5. If we move ahead to the next slide, I'm going to start with enrollment and actually look back a month or so to summer of 2021. You can see that we have had remarkable consistency on head counts in the summer. I just wanted to share a couple of things with you. We were slightly above our 5-year mean of 6123 this particular summer. A couple of things I thought were interesting. Number one, that our percentage of on-ground classes peaked in 2020 during the COVID era at a little over 80%. We're back to about 2/3 online in the summer. That's what our students are wanting in terms of summer enrollments. The other thing is that over the last 5 years, our summer enrollments have gone from about 1/4 being graduate students to about 1/3 being graduate students. If we move to the next slide, I'll talk about fall 21, and we have some really great news to share. Our 10th day enrollment is 13,010 students. That's up between 1% and 2%, or up about 150 students compared to a year ago. As you can see, our freshman class, almost 2,000 students, just slightly below 1992. That's a growth of 22% in our freshman class from a year ago, and it's the largest freshman class we've had in 6 years. You can also see that the diversity of our class was up tremendously of the freshman class, 23% are students of color, 62% growth African-American freshmen, 24% Asian, 42% Hispanic. So a lot of diversity in our freshman class. If we look at the next slide, I want to also add that I want to say thank you that the scholarship program that you approved about 1.5 years ago for incomes, household incomes of $64K, allowed us to support 240 new students this year, 142 first year, 98 transfers. So thank you for that. That made a big difference. You can also see that our international enrollment has grown significantly, 48%. That ties our all-time high for international students, and the undergraduate portion of that, which was 204 students, is an all-time record. So great things happening with international students. Graduate enrollment of over 3,000 students. That's the highest graduate enrollment in over 40 years. Next slide, please. I also wanted to just tell you a little bit about that class of the 1,992 freshmen that are here. About almost 1,200 are in residence, are living on campus. You can see that most of our freshman class is from Illinois, 81%. 16% are U.S. out of state, 14% Missouri, 2% elsewhere, and 2% international. You'll also recall, as it relates to our high school GPA, we moved away from a testing, we went to a test optional approach. And you can see in looking at the last 5 years with test optional not occurring, high school GPA is the metric that we are really looking at. And again, we've seen a lot of consistency, 3.5 something in the last entering 4 classes. If we'll move on, I'll go to my second theme, which has to do with traditions. We just have so much energy and a lot of things going on as we return to normal on campus. So this is the picture actually of the fall 2020 class. So they wanted to get a traditional photo. So we had about 200 students from the class of fall 2020 that were part of that. If we compare that then to the next slide, you'll see that we had about 1,100 students that wanted to do our freshman photo. And so we were very pleased to get back to that tradition. The next slide has a number of additional traditions. people moving in before classes start. Some of you may remember carrying boxes and furniture and things for your kids to residence hall rooms. We have move-in crews which helped, and so we're really pleased that that's part of our culture. On the upper right, you'll see me walking with Haley Odell. One of our traditions is that the freshman class all signs a banner, which we display on campus during the year. And then they march to that spot where they have the freshman photo. One of the newest traditions that I think our students really love is the Blizzard Day, where people get a Dairy Queen Blizzard. And so we did that at Edwardsville with Mayor Art Risby, and we did that at the Alton campus with Mayor Goins. And so the question of the day was Oreo or cookie dough. So just in case you're wondering, Oreo won. There you go. Next slide, please. Just finishing out the concept of traditions. One of the things I appreciate is our faculty, staff, and students volunteer to help new students on the first day of class. We have the Ask Me program, where students ask about where their classes are, where their buildings are, where textbook services are, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a lot of fun. Down below, you'll see the first day, the red carpet treatment at our charter high school in East St. Louis. And you'll see Dr. Gina Williams there welcoming students. Upper right-hand corner, one of my favorite things is our community service day, which happens the weekend before the first day of classes. And so here you see students working on a mulch pile in a community garden environment. So we were putting mulch down to try to control the weeds. Last thing on traditions, the next slide, we have first night, first class, first night. And so students get a chance to meet new friends, as you can see in the upper left-hand corner. The lower right-hand corner, I would invite you to come by the third Sunday of August. We do a welcome parade for all of our students, and we line up and we drive by all the residence halls and honk and say welcome to our students. The last theme that I'd like to cover has to do with community. So if we could move forward there, just a few things quickly. The Department of Public Administration and Policy Analysis, or PAPA, was approved for a baccalaureate certificate in professional leadership. If you see on the second part of that slide, the School of Nursing and College of Arts and Sciences received a $1.8 million HRSA grant to help boost the number of qualified mental health providers. That's a really important topic in the state right now. There were congressional hearings 2 or 3 weeks ago about how to accomplish that. So congratulations to Drs. Bogle and Swanky for making that happen. Next slide. One of our wonderful alums from the School of Engineering, Chico Weber, has started a new business called Square Fruit Labs. He has invented a new type of robotic grow light, which helps to grow food at using less energy. So congratulations to him. Next slide. School of Pharmacy. We have congratulations to Dr. Kreider and Dr. Newman, who are working on an oral COVID-19 symptom treatment that may help prevent hospitalizations. It involves small novel compounds that target sigma receptors. So wonderful work happening there. Next slide. Community. We are pleased to be working with Scott Air Force Base. They have started an innovation hub called Elevate. So you see Provost Cobb with Colonel Scott Heathman. We are sharing equipment and facilities, particularly focusing on STEM development. Next slide. In the area of athletics, our SIU athletics announced recently a 3-year rental agreement using Simmons baseball field, working with Play 9 Sports, where we will have tournaments coming to the Edwardsville area, high school level athletes, and that will happen in June and July in summers of 22, 23, and 24. Continuing on, congratulations to our Department of English, and particularly Drs. Ramsey, Callie, and Brooks. They did an NEH-sponsored grant to look at the works of Frederick Douglass, and particularly They invited 25 high school teachers to come, particularly folks who are specializing in African-American literature. And so that was a great event this summer. Next slide. I always like to remind people that the Suzuki program started in the United States on SIUE's campus. John Kendall was the professor that brought that from Japan to the United States. And so our summer program will be culminating in a concert in Edwardsville, the city park, this Sunday night at 6:30. So if you're not doing anything, I hope you'll turn out. Next slide. Our dental school next year, 2022, turns 50. And so what a wonderful affirmation that we had a ribbon cutting on an advanced care clinic a couple of weeks ago. And so we were so pleased to have Representative Amy Ellick, Katie Stewart, Senator Rochelle Crow, Dean Rotter, President Mahoney, Mayor Goins, and 2 individuals from Delta Dental, Laura Vitek and Frank Maggie. They provided significant funding to help make that building happen. So we're very pleased about that. Next slide. ESPN did a show, did a story this summer about 2 wonderful individuals on our campus, Shamar and Lamar Wright. It's an inspiring story of overcoming. They are on our basketball team. They lost, tragic loss of their parents, but they are thriving, and it's just an amazing story. So I hope you'll have a chance to see that on ESPN. Let me finish with the last slide and just say welcome back to all of our students. Welcome to our new SIUE police who are sworn in at the bottom, and welcome to the students in the upper left-hand corner who are thrilled to be part of esports. So with that, I conclude my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Pembroke. Any questions of Chancellor Pembroke?
Yes, if I could ask one, Mr. Chairman. Chancellor Pembroke, or maybe to Provost Cobb, where do we stand with the replacement of Laura, the Dean of the Nursing Program?
So I'll jump in, and then Denise, if you want to say anything else. So we just had a going away reception for Dean Bernay. She provided fantastic leadership for a number of years, I think 7 years at the School of Nursing. The search is going on. We have an outside consulting firm that is helping us with that. We have a closing date coming up very soon in terms of first review of applications. And so Provost Cobb is doing a great job in leading that. So Denise, I don't know if there's anything you want to add.
So the search committee is working closely with Greenwood Asher. They're doing a stakeholder survey as well to help inform the process. So that's well underway. Applications are coming in. Greenwood Asher is making a number of contacts. We're getting weekly reports from them. So we're optimistic. Obviously, this is an important search for our university, and making sure that we have a dean who can continue the momentum of the School of Nursing is critical to our university and to the region, quite frankly. So we're optimistic, and things are moving in the right direction.
You have an amazing nursing program, but did we also lose the number 2 person at the same time?
Associate Dean Roberta Harrison retired about the same time that Dean Bernay did.
It seemed a little short. I mean, Laura never said anything, and then all of a sudden, boom, it was like 3 or 4 months notice. Was that known longer to you, or was that catch you guys by surprise a little bit too?
She had shared with us, and she had a timeline in mind that we tried to honor. And so I think it was important that Provost Cobb made a quick transition in terms of leadership. So I appreciate that. And I think that not only the interim leadership, but at the dean level, but the assistant and associate deans, we have a really strong team over there. We had record enrollment again in the nursing school, and we have almost 2,000 students, 2,000 majors in that school. Denise, anything else you'd like to share?
I think we were, some of the public announcements came later than we knew because we were trying to make sure that Dean Bernay had every opportunity to lead until she was leaving, right? And if you announce an interim too early, then that sometimes creates challenges for the existing leadership team. But you're right to point out that, with Associate Dean Harrison leaving at the same time, it was incredibly challenging to make sure that we could sustain and support the momentum of the school. And so we take that really seriously. I'm incredibly pleased and proud of Mark Luer and the leadership he's providing to the school right now. Although it may sound unwieldy to try to lead two schools, what he's doing really demonstrates strong leadership. And so I think they're in good shape until we can get this, have a successful search. So I'm confident about that, but take very seriously our responsibility to find a new dean.
I have 100% confidence in you, Provost Cobb, and I think it's an amazing program, and I'm sure it'll just continue on just fine. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Curtis. Any other questions of Chancellor Pembroke? Thank you, Chancellor Pembroke. At regular board meetings, 30 minutes will be reserved to receive comments or questions from members of the public and employees of the university. Speakers' comments or questions should not exceed 5 minutes. Persons wishing to speak shall contact the executive secretary of the board. The executive secretary of the board shall maintain a roster of those seeking to speak and shall call the speakers in order. Madam Secretary, do we have any speakers today?
We have 2 speakers. Our first speaker is Ann Fletcher.
Ms. Fletcher.
Good afternoon. Many of you have met me before. I'm Ann Fletcher, the president of the SIU Faculty Association, and I'm becoming the skunk at the picnic. I'm here to talk to you about what it would really mean to make faculty at SIUC a genuine priority. We're really happy to see that the current proposed budget now includes a salary increase plan for SIUC. The rationale for the plan states that adequate salaries for our faculty and staff are a high priority. In light of inflation and essentially the pay reduction it caused, adequate isn't exactly inspiring language at an institution that prides itself on excellence. This isn't the place to bargain salary. We return to the interest-based bargaining table to begin discussion of finances tomorrow. But here's what you could do today to show that fair salaries for faculty are a real priority. Faculty are grievously underpaid. Recognize that the faculty who facilitate the university's teaching and research are the university's essential workers. SIUC faculty have gone the extra mile to help the university weather a budget crisis and now a public health crisis. Every day that we enter the classroom, the laboratory, or the studio, we put our disciplinary expertise and, in the confusion of a pandemic, our health on the line. We've helped turn around SIUC's declining enrollment. We've taken on extra work to fill gaps as colleagues have left. We can't afford to keep losing good faculty, and we can't expect good people to keep working for a university that allows their real wages to erode year after year. Please commit to put an end to the real decline in faculty salaries this year and with long-range planning for the years to come. Develop a long-term plan to get SIU faculty caught up with inflation, with our peers at other research institutions, and even with the other schools in the SIU system, as indicated by the chart provided at the conclusion of this agenda. We believe that SIU can be more than adequate. Make faculty a real priority, and you'll take the single most important step you can toward recruiting, retaining, and motivating the faculty that we need to make SIU the excellent university it aspires to be and has been. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. And I will say that we're going to, I agree that faculty is underpaid, as with a lot of people in the area for what they do, not only in the university, but out. But I understand, we have to work within a budget, but we're going to try to increase that budget so that we're getting more students, and we understand the faculty wanting more money. I would love to be able to give them more money. And I've been on the board, for 8 years now, and this is only like the second pay raise the faculty has received during the time I've been on the board.
That's right.
So I hear your call, and we're going to do what we can within the limits we have, and in order to try to increase pay for the faculty and staff for this system that we have.
Thank you. And we truly do appreciate the bind that you're in, but we feel that we have not been considered a real priority in the past. We truly appreciate that you added this to the agenda between the last board meeting and now. Thank you so much for your time. I am going to exit because I need to meet a student and go teach a class in person. So I'm going to listen for a minute and then I'm going to go. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yu-Ting Lee.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Good afternoon, Honorable Board of Trustees, distinguished guests, and other attendees and viewers. I'm here to make 3 brief remarks on behalf of SIU Carbondale faculty senators. First, our SIUC faculty members have been working very closely with our campus administration, other parties and constituencies to support our campus safety practices and to comply with vaccination requirements. We are following the governor's order to implement COVID-19 vaccination and also testing policies. With the cautionary steps taken, we believe that our campus is relatively safe. Second, our faculty members and faculty senators have a vested interest in students' enrollment and student learning. This year, our enrollment has moved in a very promising and positive direction. But we still face many challenges as we strive to maintain this upward trend long-term, including more diversity or underserved students and international students enrollment, as well as other non-traditional students enrollment. Finally, and most importantly, I would like to take a moment to express my appreciation to you as the Board of Trustees, to President Mahoney, to Chancellor Nan, for your continuous support for our faculty. Based on the feedback from many SIUC faculty members, we also respectfully ask you, Board of Trustees, President Mahoney, and Chancellor Nan to consider investing more in our current faculty members, such as more raise and also hiring more new faculty members as a top strategic priority in the future. Why? It is our talented faculty members from diverse backgrounds who help our students in their academic success and also make our SIUC an outstanding doctoral research university nationally and internationally. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Okay, our next item is the call for the omnibus motion. The trustees have had approximately 10 days to study the items on the agenda. A certain number of items are routine and self-explanatory, so as to save time, we act upon them in one motion and vote. Madam Secretary, please read the items suggested for the omnibus motion.
That would be items H, starting with changes in faculty administrative payroll, SIUC, through item N, salary increase plan for fiscal year 2022. And we will take items F and G separately.
Okay, is there any discussion? Is there a motion to approve the items for the omnibus motion? This is H through N with exception of F and G. Is that correct?
So moved.
Second.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by trustee Curtis. Will you please call the roll?
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Tanya Genovese had to leave. Gilbert,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick,
Yes.
Walters,
Yes.
I declare that the motion has passed to approve the omnibus motion is passed. Board item F, report of purchase orders and contracts, the June and July SIUC. Do I have a motion to approve that item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we're now going to ask for roll call on item F.
Clinton.
Yeah.
Curtis,
Abstain.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick,
Recuse.
Walters.
Yes.
Okay, I declare that motion is passed. Board item G, report and purchase orders and contracts for June and July 2021 SIUE. Do I have a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
So second.
So moved and seconded. Now ask for a roll call vote on item G.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick,
Recuse.
and Walters.
Yes.
I declare that motion passed. That concludes the business of the Board of Trustees today. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Trustees is planned to be held December 2nd at SIU here in Carbondale. A news conference will be held immediately at the conclusion of this meeting. I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Whittington, please call the roll.
Clinton,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick,
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is carried. I want to thank everyone for their participation today. Again, this is a continuation of these Zoom meetings. I hope someday we can be in person again, hopefully by December. But if not, we will again have another Zoom board meeting. So this meeting is now adjourned. Everyone have a good rest of the day.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like